Hello everybody, welcome to today's video where we are going to talk about an interesting topic, the Matrix. There's a tiny detail in the Matrix that you may have missed that blew my mind last night, and I would like to kind of explore an interesting food for thought topic. Now, as we jump into this topic here, there's really only two possibilities. The Matrix either exists or it doesn't. If it does exist, then this may be the closest possible evidence I've ever seen to proving that it's real. The other option is that the Matrix doesn't exist and this video is just fantasy, and great, watch it for entertainment purposes. But either way, some of the best courses I ever took in college were philosophy because they teach you how to think. And the point of this video is I'm hopefully going to challenge the ways in which you think. Let's jump in. When I use the term Matrix, usually when you define any sort of these arguments, you got to start by defining the actual term. For me, for the sake of the video, how I'm going to define it is the Matrix is the concept or the theory that reality as we know it is being perceived or not what we know. And Rene Descartes had a very famous solution to this problem. I think, therefore I am. Have you ever heard that? That is literally the solution to the problem. He said, listen, even if reality is a complete simulation, I'm being harvested in another multiverse by another civilization. If all of these things are true, right, then what that means for you and me is that as long as we can think, as long as we have the idea that somewhere we could be in a simulation, that proves that our soul or consciousness does exist in some form somewhere. We wouldn't be able to even have the thought that I could exist in a simulation. And so that was kind of his solution. And as time has gone on, humans have been tackling and grappling this idea for years and years and years. There's a very popular movie most of us know about called The Matrix, which explored this very concept that perhaps everything we know could be a perception of reality. Now, there's a tiny detail in a scene that you may have missed. In the first movie, Neo's getting interrogated by one of the world's best villains, Mr. Agent Smith. And in that scene, Neo's passport actually shows, and this is crazy if you've never noticed this, the movie was made before 9/11. Neo's passport shows September 11th, 2001, which is a crazy, crazy coincidence detail. You know, the film directors years later have always said that it's literally a coincidence. That is absolutely insane that that's the same. But The Matrix is a movie about the fact that there is no coincidences. It's a simulation, right? Everything happens for a reason. It's all programmed and we can make it happen. So going back to our binary logic here, The Matrix is either real or it isn't. If it isn't real, the movie is completely fantasy and this is just a coincidence. If The Matrix is real, and we do think that The Matrix is real, wouldn't you think it would be a diabolical, twisted sense of humor in a reality where in that reality, your humans or your robots or whatever you've programmed, they've started imagining that what if we are in a reality? What if you planted an actual cryptic reality seed, like it's a twisted joke? For us, we perceive the Matrix as fantasy of our reality. To somebody that did create the Matrix, they would laugh so hard saying, this is reality, and I'm going to plant a seed of fantasy that they're going to think is fantasy, but it's reality inside their fantasy. And it's just a complete commentary on narratives. The other tiny detail that you may not have realized, and let's, again, keep going down this binary logic. The Matrix is either real or it isn't. If it is real, and that was a twisted joke, inside the same scene, you notice the camera pans a little bit, and you see multiple TV screens. There's a villain or a character or whatever you want to call it later in the series called the Architect. Spoiler alert, duh. If the Architect essentially watches all the multiverses in these thousands of simulations and figures out which is the most optimal and how do we survive. This is where it gets crazy. If the 9/11 detail is real, that means most of the rest of the movie is actually reality depicted as fantasy. We just perceive it as fantasy. That means the concept of the Architect actually exists. That's like not fantasy. Again, if the Matrix is real and that was a twisted detail, there's other elements of truth to the film that perhaps somebody is trying to show us, right? And so if the Architect is real, that means that human civilization has already failed. That's one of the huge reveals in the third movie, is that Human civilization has already failed hundreds of times. Literally, the robots are just trying to find a way to program human brains to get it inside a bottle, put the lightning in a bottle to where they can control it, to where the simulation won't fail. Because humans naturally hate being caged, and as soon as we detect that we're being caged, we freak out, right? And so the entire movie is a commentary on that. What if I were to tell you in this age of AI, there has been in the last few weeks a fifth force of physics discovered that we literally don't know? What if I were to tell you one of the world's smartest men has been claiming for years that we go somewhere after we die and that angels and demons 100% exist? What if I were to apply the concept of the Matrix to religion, and I were to say if the Matrix doesn't exist, then all religion is whatever? This is kind of a stretch, but hear me out. The religion usually teaches you that there is a being, a supernatural something, a force, something, and it creates the rules in which our reality exists, right? But in order for any of those arguments to hold up, something has to create a simulation that we live in, right? Every religion is founded upon the principle of the Matrix, right? Why do you think dinosaurs randomly got freaking wiped out millions of years ago, and then we restarted over? But we don't have an explanation of it. Why is the planet billions of years old, but human civilization is only tens of thousands scratching the dirt? What if I were to tell you that in the age of AI, there is actually evidence pointing to, now that we have uncovered, that other human civilizations have failed before us, and that maybe this tiny detail in the Matrix is just a twisted sense of humor from the person in charge?